Fleet Overseer Morath stood before the great viewing window of Orbital Station Eternal Light. His forearms were folded behind his back. His compound eyes watched the endless stars. For 200 years he had served the Velari Dominion. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched species bow before the might of his people. Nothing in the galaxy surprised him anymore. The Velari controlled half the known universe. Their ships were the fastest. Their weapons were the deadliest. Their archives contained information about every star, every planet, every species, and every ship that existed. Knowledge was power, and the Velari had all of it. "Overseer," a voice called from behind him. Morath turned slowly. A young officer stood at attention, his insectoid face showing something Morath had not seen in decades. Fear. "What is it?" Morath asked. "Sector 7 Gamma, sir. The sensors have detected something." "Then identify it and log it in the archives." "Why do you bother me with routine work?" The young officer's wings twitched nervously. "We cannot identify it, sir. It matches nothing in the archives." Morath felt his heart skip. That was impossible. The archives contained data on every vessel ever built by every species in the galaxy. Every engine signature, every hull design, every weapon system. Nothing flew through Dominion space without being recognized. "Show me," Morath commanded. He followed the officer to the main control room. Dozens of Velari workers sat at their stations, but all eyes were fixed on the central display. A red dot moved across the star map. It came from the galactic rim, from the dead space beyond the borders of known civilization. "What is its speed?" Morath asked. 0.4 times the speed of light, sir. "And it is accelerating." Morath stared at the display. 0.4 light speed was impossible. The fastest Dominion ships could only reach 0.2. No technology in the archives could explain this. "Hull configuration?" "Unknown, sir. The design matches nothing we have ever seen." Morath felt something he had not felt in a very long time: uncertainty. The Velari Dominion was built on the simple truth that they knew everything worth knowing. If something existed outside their knowledge, it meant their foundation was cracked. "Where is it heading?" he asked. The officer hesitated. "Core space, sir. It is heading directly toward us." The room fell silent. Every worker stopped breathing. A vessel of unknown origin with impossible speed was flying straight toward the heart of their empire. "Attempt communication," Morath ordered. "All frequencies." The communication officer worked frantically at his station. Minutes passed. Then something happened that made everyone freeze. A signal came back. It was not in any language the Velari recognized. The computer worked to translate it, searching through millions of linguistic patterns in the archives. Finally, it found a match. Old Terran. The ancient language of humans. Morath felt his blood turn cold. Humans were a conquered species. 3,000 years ago, the Dominion had found their primitive ships fleeing a dying world. 12 vessels filled with desperate creatures. The Velari had intercepted 11 of them. They had taken the humans and made them servants, slaves, the lowest class of the empire. They were weak, short-lived, and stupid. They posed no threat. The 12th ship had vanished into uncharted space. The Dominion had assumed it was destroyed. Dead space was called dead for a reason. Nothing survived there. The translation appeared on the main screen. Morath read it 3 times, unable to believe his eyes. "We remember what you did. We are coming home." The words hung in the air like poison. Around him, officers exchanged terrified glances. Morath's mind raced through possibilities. A human ship? After 3,000 years? With technology that surpassed the Dominion? "This is a trick," someone said. It must be. But Morath knew it was not a trick. The sensor data was clear. The ship was real. Its power output was beyond anything they had ever measured. Whatever had happened to that 12th ship, whatever the humans had found in the dead space, it had changed everything. "Send an emergency message to the High Council," Morath commanded. "Highest priority. Tell them we have a situation that threatens the foundation of the Dominion. What should we tell them, sir? Morath looked at the red dot on the screen. It moved closer with every second. 3,000 years of certainty crumbled before his eyes. Tell them the humans have returned. Tell them they are no longer primitive. Tell them. He paused, struggling to speak words that felt impossible. Tell them we may have made a terrible mistake. The young officer rushed to obey. Around the station, alarms began to sound. Fleet mobilization orders went out across Dominion space. For the first time in 500 years, the Velari Dominion prepared for a threat they did not understand. Morath returned to the viewing window. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars he could see, a ship was coming. A ship filled with creatures his people had dismissed as worthless. Creatures they had enslaved and forgotten. He thought about the humans he had seen over his long life. Servants cleaning floors. Workers in mines. Faces without hope, bodies without strength. How could such beings build something that frightened the greatest empire in the galaxy? The answer came to him slowly, and it filled him with dread, because we never really looked at them. We saw what we wanted to see. We saw weakness because it made us feel strong. We saw stupidity because it made us feel smart. What if we were wrong? The red dot kept moving, faster than anything should move. Closer than Morath wanted it to be. The humans were coming home, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Kress stood on the bridge of the Wrath of Ages, the greatest warship in the Dominion fleet. 40 vessels followed behind him. 40 ships of death and fire, each one capable of destroying a planet. He had crushed rebellions on 100 worlds. He had never lost a battle. Today would be no different. The human vessel waited at the edge of the Vorn Nebula. Kress studied it through the viewport. His officers had called it massive, but that word was too small. The ship was a mountain floating in space. It stretched across the void like a sleeping giant. Strange writing covered its dark hull. Its design was nothing like the boxy, efficient Dominion ships. It had curves and angles that seemed almost beautiful. Kress hated it immediately. Open a channel, he ordered. The communication officer obeyed. Static filled the bridge, then cleared. Unknown vessel, Kress spoke, his voice full of authority. This is Admiral Kress of the Velari Dominion. You have entered our space without permission. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. If you resist, you will be destroyed. Silence followed. Kress waited. His officers shifted nervously at their stations, then a voice answered. It spoke in Old Terran, but the computer translated instantly. This is the HSS Eternal Vigil. We do not recognize your authority. Stand aside or be removed. Kress laughed. His officers laughed with him. The tension on the bridge broke. A human ship? Giving orders to the Dominion? The idea was so stupid it was funny. You are humans, Kress said. Your people clean our floors. They dig in our mines. They serve our food. You do not give orders to us. 3,000 years ago that was true, the voice replied. Things have changed. Nothing has changed? You are still weak. You are still inferior. And now you will learn what happens when insects challenge giants. Kress cut the channel. He turned to his weapons officer. Destroy them. 40 warships opened fire. Beams of pure energy shot across the void. Missiles screamed toward the human vessel. Enough firepower to crack a moon raced toward the Eternal Vigil. None of it hit. Kress watched in shock as the human ship moved. It did not dodge like normal ships. It seemed to fold through space, appearing in one place and then another faster than the eye could follow. The attacks passed through empty void. What is happening? Kress demanded. Before anyone could answer, the human ship struck back. Light flashed from the Eternal Vigil, not weapon fire. Something else. Something Kress had never seen. The light touched each Dominion ship like a gentle hand. Every system on the Wrath of Ages died at once. The lights went out. The engines stopped. The weapons went silent. Emergency power flickered on, but nothing else worked. Across the fleet, 40 ships drifted helpless in the void. Kress gripped his command chair. His heart pounded. In 11 seconds, the humans had disabled his entire fleet without killing a single soldier. How was that possible? Why had they not destroyed them? The main screen flickered to life. A human face appeared. A woman with dark hair and calm eyes. She wore a uniform of deep blue and silver. She looked at Cress like a teacher looking at a foolish student. "Admiral," she said. "My name is Commander Yun Sahi. I am the first officer of the Eternal Vigil." Cress tried to speak, but his mouth was dry. "We could have killed every soul in your fleet," Yun Sahi continued. "We chose not to. Remember that mercy when you report to your masters. Why?" Cress finally managed to ask. "Why spare us?" "Because we are not you," she said simply. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors found our ships. Our people were tired, hungry, and afraid. They asked for help. Your ancestors answered by putting them in chains. Her eyes hardened. We could do the same to you now. We could enslave your children and their children for 100 generations. But that is not who we are. That is not what humanity believes. Then what do you want? We want our people back. 30 billion humans live as slaves across your empire. We are here to set them free. Cress shook his head. The High Council will never allow it. They will send 1,000 ships. 10,000. They will hunt you to the end of the galaxy. Yun Sahi smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was almost sad. "Admiral, we spent 3,000 years in the dead space beyond your borders. We built cities on frozen moons. We found energy sources you cannot imagine. We grew from 1 ship to 300. Each one is like the Eternal Vigil. Each one carries technology your archives have never seen." She leaned closer to the screen. "We are not asking permission. We are not begging for mercy. We are telling you what will happen. Humanity is no longer yours to keep. The only choice your council has is whether the liberation happens peacefully or not." The screen went dark. A moment later, the Eternal Vigil vanished. It did not fly away. It simply disappeared, folding through space to somewhere far away. Cress sat in his dead ship, surrounded by his crippled fleet. For the first time in his long military career, he understood what it felt like to be helpless. What it felt like to be small dot in 11 seconds. Every belief he held had been destroyed. Humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They had only been waiting dot, and now the waiting was over. Captain Park Taiho walked through the corridors of the Eternal Vigil. 12,000 souls called this ship home. Men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Children of children of children born in the cold darkness beyond the galaxy's edge. Today, he would tell them their mission had truly begun. The great hall was full when he arrived. Soldiers stood at attention. Scientists sat in neat rows. Engineers, pilots, doctors, and teachers filled every corner. All of them looked at their captain with hope and fear in their eyes. Taiho stepped onto the raised platform. He was not a tall man, but he stood straight and strong. His face was weathered from years of hard choices. His eyes were kind but firm. "My friends," he began, "today we showed the Dominion what humanity has become. We faced their fleet and we won without taking a single life. Commander Yun Sahi and her team performed perfectly. We should all be proud." Quiet applause filled the hall. But this was only the beginning. "Let me remind you why we are here." He touched a control on his wrist. A hologram appeared above the platform. It showed a blue planet covered in white clouds, Earth, their ancient home. 3,000 years ago, our world was dying. Our ancestors built 12 ships to save humanity. 12 arcs filled with hope and dreams. They flew into the unknown, looking for a new beginning. The hologram changed. It showed 11 ships surrounded by Dominion warships. The Velari found them. They promised help. They offered food and shelter. Our ancestors were tired and grateful. They accepted. Taiho's voice grew heavy. They should not have trusted. Images appeared. Humans in chains. Humans working in mines. Humans with broken spirits and empty eyes. The Dominion enslaved them. Not because they were a threat, Not because they had done anything wrong, simply because they could, simply because humans were different and alone and weak. Taiho paused. He looked at the faces of his crew. But one ship escaped. The Exodus Dawn, our ship. Our ancestors flew into the dead space where no one else would go. They found the system hidden behind a wall of radiation that blocked all sensors. They found planets rich with resources. And they made a choice. He stood taller. They chose to survive. They chose to grow strong. They chose to never forget what was done to their brothers and sisters. And they chose that one day, when they were ready, they would return. In a corner of the hall, Dr. Choi Yuna listened with tears in her eyes. She was the chief science officer, responsible for the technology that made the eternal vigil possible. After the speech, she met with the captain in his quarters. "The crew is inspired," she said. "But I must ask, do we truly have enough strength for this?" Taiho poured 2 cups of tea. "Explain our advantages to me again. I find it helps to hear them." Yuna nodded. She loved talking about science. "Our isolation forced us to think differently," she said. "The Dominion has been using the same basic technology for 10,000 years. They improve it, but they never change it. We had no choice but to invent new things." She pulled up diagrams on a screen. "Their ships bend space to travel fast. We fold it, their weapons fire energy. We manipulate gravity and force. Their computers calculate. Ours think." She smiled with pride. "They build their ships from metal. We grow ours from programmable matter that can repair itself." "And our numbers?" 300 ships like this one. Each with a full crew. Each with the same technology." She hesitated. "But Captain, we are still outnumbered. The Dominion has thousands of ships and trillions of soldiers." "Numbers are not everything," Taiho said softly. "What do we have that they do not?" Yuna thought about it. "Purpose?" "Yes, and something else." He looked out the window at the stars. "We have justice on our side? We are not conquerors. We are liberators. Every human slave in the Dominion has been waiting for this day. They have passed down stories for generations. They remember who they are. Far away on 100 different worlds, those slaves were proving him right. On Korath 4, a woman named Hanjasu worked in the dust mines. She was 43 years old. She had been a slave since birth. Her mother had been a slave. Her grandmother had been a slave, but she knew the stories. Every human did, the return. The day when the lost children would come back. The day when the chains would break. That morning, a message had spread through the slave quarters like wildfire. A whisper from one person to the next. 5 words that changed everything. The vigil has arrived. Jasu felt her heart pound. All her life, she had hoped and doubted. Was it real? Would it really happen? Now she knew. She looked at the guards with their weapons and their cruelty. She looked at the other slaves with their broken backs and tired eyes. She made a silent promise. Hold on. Just a little longer. Help is coming. Across the galaxy, 30 billion humans made the same promise. They straightened their backs. They lifted their heads. They remembered they were not just slaves, they were human, and humans never gave up. The Human Liberation Fleet appeared without warning. 300 ships emerged from folded space at 17 locations across the Dominion. They came at the same moment in perfect coordination. On military bases and mining colonies and slave worlds. Alarms screamed and soldiers scrambled to their posts, but it was already too late. Lieutenant Kang Minho led the ground assault on Korath 4. He was 28 years old, born on a frozen moon at the edge of nowhere. He had trained for this mission since he could walk. Now, as his dropship fell through the atmosphere, he felt strangely calm. "Remember your training," he told his squad through the communication link. "We are here to free our people. Disable, do not destroy. Capture, do not kill. We are not them." The ship landed hard. The doors opened. Minho charged into chaos. The Dominion garrison was ready for a fight. They expected primitive humans with crude weapons. They expected easy targets. They found something very different. Minho's armor was made of the same programmable matter as the ship's. It moved with him like a second skin. It stopped energy blasts like they were raindrops. His weapon did not fire bullets or beams. It fired pulses that disrupted nervous systems, knocking enemies unconscious without permanent harm. The Dominion soldiers fell one after another. They could not understand what was happening. Their weapons did nothing. Their tactics failed. In 30 minutes, the garrison was defeated. Minho walked through the corridors of the slave quarters. Human faces stared at him from behind bars, eyes filled with disbelief, hands reaching through the gaps. Is it true? An old man asked. Are you really here? We are here, Minho said. His voice cracked with emotion. You are free. He broke the locks. Slaves poured out into the corridor. Some cried. Some laughed. Some simply stood still, unable to believe that the nightmare was over. A woman pushed through the crowd. Hanjisu, her face was covered in dust from the mines. Her hands were rough and scarred, but her eyes burned with fierce light. Give me a weapon, she said. Minesho hesitated. Sister, you do not need to fight. We are here now. I have waited 43 years for this day. I want to help. Minho looked at her for a long moment. Then he handed her a fallen guard's rifle. Stay behind me, he said. And welcome home. Together, they moved deeper into the facility. More slaves joined them with every corridor. What started as a military operation became something else. A family reunion? A revolution. A miracle. Far above, on orbital station Eternal Light, Fleet Overseer Morath watched the strategic displays with growing horror. Every engagement ended the same way. Human victory. Liberation after liberation. His people's forces crumbled like sandcastles before a wave, but the strangest part was what the humans were not doing. They were not killing. Captured Dominion soldiers were treated with respect. Wounded enemies received medical care. There were no massacres, no revenge killings, no torture. The humans fought with terrible efficiency, but also with strange mercy. Why? Morath whispered. Why do they not hate us? A subordinate stood beside him. Perhaps they are saving the punishment for later? No, Morath shook his head. I have seen conquerors. I have been a conqueror. This is not how conquest looks. He thought about his own history. When the Dominion took human slaves, they had worked many to death. They had separated families. They had crushed every trace of human culture and hope. If the situation were reversed, Morath would have expected rivers of blood. Instead, there was mercy. It made no sense. It frightened him more than any weapon. The communication panel beeped. An emergency broadcast from the High Council. Morath opened the channel. High Arbiter Soleth appeared on the screen. The ancient ruler looked exhausted. Behind him, Morath could see chaos in the council chamber. Overseer, Soleth said. We have made a decision. What decision, High Arbiter? We cannot defeat them in open battle. Our technology is too far behind. But we still have one option. Soleth's voice dropped. The Void Hammer. Morath felt cold. The Void Hammer was a weapon of last resort. A planet killer. It was designed for threats that could not be stopped any other way. High Arbiter, that weapon kills without discrimination. If we use it against worlds with human slaves, then we will destroy the slaves too. Better dead than free. Soleth's face was hard. The humans want their people? Then they will get ashes. We will burn every world where humans live. Every colony, every station, every ship. We will make this victory cost them everything. The channel closed. Morath stood frozen. This was the Dominion's answer to mercy. Death, destruction. If they could not win, they would make everyone lose on the surface of Karth 4. Hanjisu stood in the open air for the first time in her life. She looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the fleet waited. Somewhere out there, her people planned what came next. She did not know about the Void Hammer. She did not know that the Dominion would rather destroy everything than admit defeat. She only knew that for the first time in 43 years, she was not a slave, and that was enough. For now, that was everything. The Dominion made its final stand above Velar Prime. Over 1,000 warships gathered in a massive formation. They surrounded the Void Hammer, a station the size of a small moon. Inside that station, a weapon charged slowly. When it fired, it would create a wave of destruction that could kill every living thing on a planet. High Arbiter, Soloth watched from his command center. He had ordered every human-occupied world marked as a target. If the humans wanted war, he would give them ashes. The human liberation fleet arrived like ghosts. 300 ships folded out of nowhere. They formed a wall between the Dominion and the stars beyond. On the bridge of the Eternal Vigil, Captain Park Taiho studied the enemy formation. His face was calm, but his mind raced. "Report," he said. Commander Yun Sahi stood beside him. "The Void Hammer is charging. Based on its power output, it will be ready to fire in 40 minutes. Can we stop it?" "We can destroy their fleet. But the station is heavily shielded. By the time we break through, the weapon will fire." She paused. "Billions will die." Silence fell on the bridge. Dr. Choi Yuno looked up from her console. "Captain, there's another option." "The Singularity Lance." Taiho closed his eyes. The Singularity Lance was humanity's most terrible weapon. It could create a small black hole. One shot would destroy the Void Hammer instantly. It would also kill every person on the station. Thousands of Dominion soldiers. Innocent workers. People who were just following orders. "No," Taiho said firmly. "We did not come this far to become what we hate." "Then what do we do?" Sahi asked. Yuna spoke again, her voice quiet. "There's one more possibility. A direct insertion. If a team could board the Void Hammer and reach the weapon core, they could disable it manually. What are the odds of success?" Yuna could not meet his eyes. "Very low, Captain. The station is full of guards. The core is deep inside. Most of the team would not survive." Taiho nodded slowly. He looked around the bridge at his crew. These people had followed him across the galaxy. They trusted him with their lives. "I will lead the team myself," he said. Sahi grabbed his arm. "Captain, no. You are the symbol of our cause. If you die, then someone else will take my place." Taiho gently removed her hand. "Sahi, I cannot ask others to die for a principle I am not willing to die for. That is what makes us different from the Dominion. That is what makes us human." She wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. After a long moment, she saluted. "It has been an honor, Captain." "The honor is mine. All of you." Taiho looked at his bridge crew one last time. "If I do not return, finish what we started. Free our people. And when the war is over, show the galaxy that humanity deserves its place among the stars." The insertion was chaos. Taiho led 20 soldiers through the Void Hammer's corridors. They fought through guard after guard. The Dominion threw everything they had at the intruders. Soldiers fell on both sides. By the time they reached the weapon core, only 3 humans remained. Taiho, a young woman named Baek Naeon, and an engineer named Lee Junho, all of them were wounded. None of them stopped. The core was a massive chamber filled with spinning rings of energy. The Void Hammer's power source hummed with deadly force. Dominion soldiers poured in from every entrance. "Junho?" Taiho shouted over the noise. "Can you shut it down?" The engineer ran to the control panel. His fingers flew across the buttons. "Yes, but I need time." 2 minutes. "Naeon, cover him." The pilot nodded. She stood in front of Junho, her weapon blazing. Dominion soldiers fell, but more kept coming. Taiho fought beside her. His body screamed with pain. Blood ran down his face. But he kept fighting. For his crew. For his people. For 30 billion slaves waiting for freedom. 1 minute passed. Junho worked frantically. Naeon cried out as a blast caught her shoulder. She fell against the console but kept firing with one hand. "Almost there," Junho shouted. 10 seconds. The Dominion soldiers charged. There were too many. Taiho stood in their path. He raised his weapon. He knew he could not stop them all, but he could slow them down. Now, Jinho, do it now. The engineer pressed the final button, the spinning rings slowed. The hum died. The void hammer went dark. Outside, 1,000 Dominion ships watched their ultimate weapon fail. Their commanders stared in disbelief. They had been so certain of victory. High Arbiter Soleth stood on his command platform, surrounded by silence. His weapon was dead. His fleet was outnumbered by superior technology. He had no more options. A communication request appeared. Soleth accepted it. Captain Park Taiho appeared on the screen. He was bloody and exhausted, but he was alive. Behind him, Dominion soldiers stood with their hands raised in surrender. High Arbiter, Taiho said, "It is over. Your weapon is disabled. Your fleet cannot win. But I am not here to destroy you." Soleth laughed bitterly. "Then what? You expect me to surrender? To bow before slaves? I expect you to listen." Taiho stepped forward. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors made a choice. They chose to enslave us because they could. Today we make a different choice. We choose mercy. Soleth stared at him. "We are not here for revenge," Taiho continued. "We are here to show the galaxy a better way. Every species deserves freedom. Power does not give the right to oppress. And mercy is not weakness. It is the greatest strength." He extended his hand toward the screen. "The war is over. What happens next is up to you." Soleth looked at that hand for a long moment. He thought about the humans he had dismissed as worthless. He thought about everything they had done and everything they had chosen not to do. Slowly, he lowered his head. "I surrender." 1 year later, the galaxy looked different. The Dominion had not collapsed. It had transformed. A federation of equals replaced the empire of masters and slaves. Human ships flew beside Valari ships. Former enemies became neighbors. And in the great archives, a new entry was added: species, human classification, revised. Threat level, not applicable. Status, ally, note, they remember everything. But they chose forgiveness. Do not underestimate them. Ever in a quiet garden on Velar Prime. Park Taiho sat with Commander Yun Sahi. His wounds had healed, but the scars remained. He did not mind them. "Do you think it will last?" Sahi asked. "The peace?" Taiho watched the sunset paint the sky in colors of gold and red. "I do not know," he admitted. "But I know that we showed them what humanity truly is. Not conquerors, not victims, just people who believe that the universe can be better." He smiled, and sometimes that belief is enough.